So there are a lot of valid arguments for sticking to the natural route as a lifter, but in this video, we're not going to talk about the usual stuff like the physical health risks or whether it's morally superior to be drug-free versus enhanced. Those are separate discussions, and honestly, I really don't give a crap what people choose to do with their own lives in this area, as long as they aren't using it to mislead people by running 5 different compounds and then claiming the gains were from the Test Booster 5000 supplement they're affiliated with. If bodybuilding is your genuine passion, or maybe you compete and make a living from your physique, then obviously do whatever the hell you want. This is meant for the average recreational lifter looking to build a solid top 1 to 2% physique, get stronger, be healthier, more confident, but who isn't necessarily trying to do this at some kind of super elite level, which describes the vast majority of people watching this, and it describes myself as well. And I feel like this is more important to talk about now than ever in this age of social media steroid normalization we're going through. PEDs used to be a bit more underground, a bit more taboo to discuss openly, whereas now it's flipped in the complete opposite direction, where it seems like testosterone is just barely one step above creatine. We've got 19-year-olds talking about blasting cycles in their first year of lifting, TikToks glamorizing gear transformations, and it creates this totally warped perception that taking steroids is just a normal part of lifting if you want to get into impressive shape. Now, a lot of people think about PEDs only in terms of the more obvious side effects: acne, hair loss, blood pressure, facial aging, testicular shrinkage. We've all seen those dudes running gear at 27 years old who look more like they're pushing 40. But while steroids can obviously impact your physical state, what most people don't think about before hopping on is how it's going to affect their mental state and how they might end up down a slippery slope they didn't even realize they were signing up for. Now, full disclosure, as a lifetime natural, organic, free-range, grass-fed lifter, I can't speak directly about PEDs from experience. Okay, I'm not saying these things will affect everyone in the same way. I'm sure there are plenty of dudes out there who take steroids, love it, and have no regrets whatsoever. But from what I've seen, there are just as many who definitely don't feel that way, so this is based on the many interactions I've had in 20+ years of lifting. It's based on my own experience with past bodybuilding obsession and the experiences of other naturals that can be extrapolated to the enhanced side as well, and it's just based on underlying psychological principles that can be applied to any area of life. So let's start with something a lot of people don't even really consider, and this might apply to you if you've ever found yourself on the fence, which is the very real possibility that steroids aren't even going to do for you what you think they're going to do for you. And I'm not talking about physical muscle growth. Yes, if you train and eat and then add PEDs into the mix, you're going to gain significantly more muscle than you would without them. Don't let any of these enhanced guys fool you when they try to downplay it by saying that steroids just help you train harder or recover faster or whatever else. No, steroids are literally a direct stimulus for hypertrophy in and of themselves, even in the absence of training. This has been shown in the research, and anyone who's been in the lifting game long enough has seen more than enough dudes in the gym who blow up in a matter of months once they hop on. It's no different from how the rise in testosterone during puberty results in greater muscle mass, or how someone with chronically low testosterone who gets on TRT gains muscle as well. Steroids obviously work. What I mean is that there's a very real chance that gaining all that extra muscle won't even improve your life in the way that you might imagine. Keep in mind that achievement and happiness, whether it's in bodybuilding or your income, social status, or any area of life, they don't increase together in a straight linear fashion, and instead it operates on a diminishing returns curve. In other words, as you progress further and further in a given area, you end up receiving disproportionately less gain from those additional increases. So if you're in a place of pain because you're significantly overweight or skinny or some combination of both, you don't exercise, you eat like shit, you sleep like shit, your weekends primarily revolve around a combination of Uber Eats, anime porn, and natty or not arguments on Reddit, and those things are directly negatively impacting your daily life in terms of physical and mental health, social life, dating life, confidence at school or in the workplace, and then you get onto a proper fitness program and get those things reasonably in order, even if your physique progresses just to average or maybe even a bit above average, that'll have the most significant impact on your well-being out of anything, going from the pain zone into the neutral zone. Then as you progress further to a level where you've put on more muscle, maybe you've gotten leaner as well, and now your physique is what would be considered fairly impressive compared to the general population, you're stronger now, even more confident, that also has some positive impact on your overall life prospects in general. That'll give you another boost, but probably not as significant as the previous one. And then as you continue down that road, you make even more gains, you get even stronger, even leaner. It just keeps on operating on this diminishing returns principle to where eventually you just kind of get used to it, the novelty wears off, and unless you're being financially compensated for it in some way because you're a fitness coach or influencer, or maybe you're doing a little bit of G for P on the side, Economy's rough, I'm not judging, but aside from that, it doesn't have very much, if any, direct utility. And as you really progress further, believe it or not, it could even have the opposite effect and detract from your well-being, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But the main point here is that if you're just willing to put in the time and effort to train and eat properly and consistently as a natural lifter, if you can get over that need for instant gratification and just put in a few solid years of high-quality training, you can achieve a very solid physique at that upper end, to where changing your physique further probably won't affect your happiness very much, if at all. You'll already be getting all the physical and mental health benefits of consistent exercise and good nutrition. You'll have levels of muscle mass and strength probably in the top 1 to 2% of the general population. Same goes for body fat levels as well if you're wanting to stay a bit leaner. And in terms of attractiveness/dating, you'll basically be maxed out there as well, since the truth is that the vast majority of women don't care nearly as much about your physique as you might think, beyond you just being in decent athletic shape. And in fact, the majority actually find additional muscle and leanness less attractive beyond a certain point. There's a fine line for most women between damn he looks good and damn he looks dehydrated and slightly alarming. But unfortunately, it's really easy to lose sight of all this when you're so absorbed in fitness content every day and you're constantly looking at the most top-tier enhanced physiques on the planet. But if you can just take your physique up to, let's say, 80% plus of its natural potential, which again is doable within a few years, you'll be doing very well for yourself. Now, obviously, the desire to progress further in a given area that you're serious about is totally normal. Okay, I'm not saying that just because happiness might be maxed out at a certain level of achievement that you shouldn't strive for more. I have areas of my own life where I know that going further isn't realistically going to change my day-to-day life, but I still do it anyway because it provides a sense of purpose and meaning, and it's just fun in general, and you've got to do something with your time before you die, but you do have to weigh it out against the cost involved. And if we're talking specifically about bodybuilding, then up to a certain point, the only way to achieve significantly more physique-wise is to go down the PED route. Yes, you can continue making gains as a natural for a very long time, but the returns will get quite small once you pass roughly the 5-year mark of consistent proper lifting. But still, you've got to ask yourself, is it really worth it to start injecting yourself every week, altering your physiology in such a significant way, dealing with the potential side effects and everything else that comes along with it, just to add some more muscle to your frame that might be cool for a while, but that ultimately may not make much difference to your life anyway, and when you're already in great shape to begin with? The next factor to consider is that even if gaining more muscle beyond your maxed out natty physique genuinely did bring you more joy and satisfaction, it's only going to be temporary anyway, because no matter what level of achievement you reach, your brain will always adjust to it and bring you back to baseline, and this is known as the principle of hedonic adaptation. You'll experience a short-term burst of pleasure when you unlock that new goal, but inevitably you're just going to adapt to that level, and probably more quickly than you'd even expect. It'll stop bringing you satisfaction, you'll start comparing yourself to the people at the next level above you, to where your current position doesn't seem all that great anymore, or even just straight up feels inadequate, and the only way to get that next hit is going to be to progress further and climb up to that next level. That's the way our brains evolve, because it's what motivates us to continue striving, and again, this applies to all areas of life, whether it's fitness or money or progressing at a given skill set, even something as simple as playing a video game. I'm sure most of you can relate to that. You put in all this time and effort to level up your character, thinking that once you get the best weapons and superpowers and whatever else, that it's just going to feel so satisfying, but once you finally get there and realize that all you really have now is a fancier cape and a sword that shoots green fireballs, it gets boring very fast, and you're just staring at the screen wondering what to do next. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that as long as you're consciously aware of it and you go about it in a healthy way. Just the process of progressing further at something is enjoyable in and of itself, but the big problem when it comes specifically to the world of enhanced bodybuilding is that there's only one way to unlock that next level, and that's going to be with additional drugs. You've basically got this chemical lever you can pull to guarantee growth at any time, and once you go down that road, it's likely just going to get harder and harder to mentally detach from it. So maybe you do your first cycle, you get that initial increase in muscle, it feels fun for a little while, but where do you go from there once that high wears off? Now you've adapted to that level, it doesn't really satisfy you anymore, you're looking at the dudes who are even bigger and more jacked than you are, and not only will it require more compounds and or higher dosages to get there, but now you're reliant on those drugs just to maintain what you already have, even though it's probably not even satisfying you any longer anyway. So if you're natural right now and you think that just doing one cycle is going to give you that extra muscle that will finally make you feel satisfied, you really need to sit down with yourself and understand that more likely than not, this is just a mental illusion. So why not avoid that process altogether, stay natural, and focus on the things that you can still improve without adding in the drugs. You're almost certainly not at your genetic limit in the first place. There's still ways you can progress physique-wise, even if it does happen at a much slower rate. You probably have certain muscle groups that are slightly behind and could be given more focus. There are definitely ways you can progress strength-wise because the window for that is pretty large and there are so many different movements you can work on, or you could even consider adding other elements into your program beyond just aesthetics or pure strength. Maybe something like calisthenics or weightlifting, improving cardiovascular fitness, sprinting, jumping, or maybe some other skill like a martial art. Just something fitness related that you can continue to improve at versus just trying to endlessly increase the thickness of the medial head of your triceps. And this is all especially true considering this last point that most people are totally unaware of, which is that not only is taking your physique further and further to the extreme not guaranteed to improve your quality of life, but it could literally make it worse. And again, we're talking purely psychological without even bringing the health side into it. You might think that just having more muscle and more strength and more leanness is automatically all upside, but in a lot of ways it can just make you more neurotic, more obsessive, standing there in the bathroom mirror at 1 a.m. trying to figure out if your left and right pecs truly are symmetrical or if the left one is 3% smaller. It's not uncommon for body dysmorphia to get even worse as your physique progresses further, and this can easily become a source of stress and insecurity that detracts from your mental health rather than adding to it, and PEDs aside, this can even happen as a natural lifter. I mean, speaking from my own experience back during the first probably 8 to 10 years or so of training when I took bodybuilding really seriously, and it was basically an all-consuming passion for me, I was definitely bigger and quite a bit stronger than I am now, but I can say for sure that while the process of striving for those higher goals was enjoyable at the time, I wouldn't say that I was objectively happier, and in many ways I was worse off because of that added stress of being totally consumed by, every 1/8 of an inch on my arms, or every 0.5% of body fat, or 2.5 extra pounds on the bar, having to eat so much food to maintain my weight, revolving my life around my training and diet to such a huge degree, much less flexible social life, higher levels of comparison anxiety with other guys at the gym and online. Whereas now, I still train hard, I still take the gym seriously, but not to that same degree. I'm not excessively wrapped up in my physique aesthetics, my focus is diffused onto other areas of life. I have more lifestyle freedom because I'm not counting every single calorie or feeling like my world is going to implode if I miss a workout. I'm actually more confident now than I've ever been despite being physically smaller, so just keep in mind that more muscle or less body fat doesn't automatically equal a better quality of life. There are always trade-offs involved with anything you do, and don't think that having this super jacked physique is just going to have you walking around feeling permanently amazing, because not only is it possible that it won't make you happier at all, but it could even have the opposite effect, and this is all going to be amplified further when it's hinging on the use of drugs. So I hope this was helpful, and if you are committed to building muscle naturally and want to maximize your gains in a healthy, sustainable way, make sure to check out my new TrainWise app. This condenses my 20+ years of lifting and coaching experience into one place and lays out all the tools and information you need in a step-by-step format, including fully structured workouts, customized nutrition targets, recipes, progress tracking tools, exclusive educational content, and more. You can sign up free for 7 days at trainwiseapp.com, and then make sure to give this video a watch next, which outlines 15 common muscle building mistakes you might be making and how to avoid them. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.